Don't drive along I-70 at night, specifically one single stretch of I-70. It's in Utah between Salina and Green River. Over 100 miles with no services. That means no hotels, no restaurants, no gas stations. Only some viewing areas where you can pull off the road. It's a hell of a drive, don't get me wrong. Those Utah mountains are stunning in the daytime, and at night, you have one of the clearest views of the stars you can find. But 100 miles is a long way to go, especially at night. Anyone who has driven that stretch of interstate can tell you, it's not overly busy, even during the day. Approaching dusk, cars become even more scarce. By the time the middle of the night rolls around, you can drive for miles and miles and not see the headlights from another car. And don't even get me started on cell service out there. Definitely not a place you would want to get stranded, especially at night. The thought of breaking down out there on a dark night with no one around for miles is enough to give anyone second thoughts about attempting the drive. Unfortunately for me, I was in a hurry, so I decided to go for it. A little backstory. I'm originally from a city called Lincoln, Nebraska, mostly known for the college sports team, the Cornhuskers. I was born and raised there, lived there my whole life up until I was about 25. I decided that since I was single with no kids, that now was the time to get out and explore. So I accepted a job in LA and moved out west. Most of my family still lives in Lincoln, so I try to go back and visit every once in a while. This particular Sunday, I got a call from my mother around 2 p.m. My grandpa, who has been in a nursing home since he had a stroke, was starting to get a lot worse. They didn't expect him to make it until the end of the week, so if I wanted to get home to see him, I should do so sooner rather than later. Fortunately for me, I was recently unemployed, so I had the time to go see him. Unfortunately for me, I was recently unemployed, and last-minute flights are expensive, so I decided to drive. I had made the drive before. It certainly wasn't fun, but it was a much cheaper option, and I figured I could try to drive all the way through. And luckily for me, I had gotten my car serviced a couple weeks prior. 2 hours later, I was packed up and on the road with my dog, Chance. It was a very uneventful drive for the most part. Daylight faded, and I remembered being disappointed that I would be driving through Utah and most of Colorado at night, so I would miss out on the beautiful scenery. I love looking at stars, but it's hard to enjoy them as you're driving 80+ mph, and since I was in a hurry, I wouldn't be stopping to get a better look, so I resigned myself to just sing loudly to keep myself awake. A little after midnight, I finally got there. Salina, Utah. I passed the billboard warning motorists of what's to come. No bull, no service for 110 miles. It's paid for by the city of Salina. A good thing too. According to the gas station attendants, it happens several times each week that someone comes walking up to the building because they ran out of gas. I stopped and filled up, and was immediately back on the road. It had snowed recently. The roads were clear, but there was still snow on the sides of the road. Now I'm the kind of driver that speeds everywhere I go. The speed limit on this particular stretch of road is usually 80 miles per hour, so I'm typically going almost 90, except on the steep grades, of which there are plenty. I've been driving about 30 minutes at this point. I had passed a few cars several miles ago, but they are too far back to see their headlights. Have you ever driven on a road alone late at night and just marveled at how dark it actually is? And how alone you actually are? Sometimes when I'm on a drive like that and when I get to a long straight stretch of road, I like to turn my headlights off as I'm driving, just for a few seconds, just to see what it really looks like when there's almost no light around. It's almost cathartic. Suddenly, as I'm driving, I hear a loud pop. The car jerks to the right, or maybe it was to the left, I can't remember. My low tire pressure indicator is flashing, and I slam on the brakes after I slowly straighten the car out. I pull over to the side of the road and put on my emergency lights. Chance is going nuts. I've blown a tire before, so I already know what to expect as I step out of the car. My right front tire is completely flat. I try to look at the tire more closely to see what actually happened, but even with the flashlight on my phone, it's still too dark. I check my phone. No service, of course. I roll down the rear passenger window so Chance can stick his head out and get some fresh air while I replace the tire. I get to work, grumbling under my breath that of course I'm just about halfway to Green River, and I'll have to go the rest of the way on my spare tire, which would significantly slow me down. I removed the spare tire and the jack from the trunk and went to get started. As I walked back up to the front of the car, I froze. Someone was walking towards me, their silhouette barely visible at the very edge of my headlights. Chance hadn't made a sound. They continued walking until they were about 30 feet from the front of my car. I couldn't make out any distinct features, just that they were tall, 6 feet 5 inches, maybe 6 feet 6 inches. At this point, no cars had passed me going east since I had pulled over, so after the initial shock of seeing another person, my first thought was, where did this person come from? They just stood there, unmoving, staring at us. Chance still hasn't made a sound, but now he's staring at the figure ahead too. I won't lie to you boys and girls, I was scared shitless. Who was this person? Where did they come from? Why are they just staring at me? Why isn't Chance barking at them like he does at everything else that moves? I put the spare tire down and hesitantly speak. Hello? I ask, still hoping that my eyes are playing tricks on me. No response. Didn't move a muscle. It was under 10 degrees, and they weren't even shivering, despite appearing as though they had walked there from out of nowhere. Hello? I ask again, a little louder this time. At this point, I'm starting to wonder if this person requires assistance more than I do. I open my mouth to speak again, when finally I hear something. Do you need help? The man asks faintly. For the first time, I can tell it's a man, based on the voice. Not as deep of a voice as you would expect from a man his size, which strikes me as odd. He still hasn't moved. Where did you come from? I ask. I didn't see any taillights in front of me, and no one has passed me since I pulled over. How long have you been out here? I start walking towards the front of my car slowly, the tire iron clenched in my hand. The man made no visible movements, but again I hear, do you need help? I stop walking and try to get a better look at the man. I still couldn't make out any physical features, but I could tell he wasn't dressed for winter weather. I was in sweatpants and a winter jacket, and I was still cold. But here this man is with pants on, wearing a short-sleeve shirt of some kind. He kept his face pointing downward the whole time. At this point, I'm really starting to freak out. This time his voice sounded wrong, as if he was struggling with each word. I started inching my way around the front of my car to the driver's side door. If nothing else, I could get in the car and lock the doors. I still have the tire iron, but I've never thought of myself as a physically impressive person, and I knew that if it came down to it, this tire iron may not help me overcome the difference in stature. He spoke again. Do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help? His voice is becoming more urgent, as if he's panicking. He finally takes a step towards me. One step, one long step, still repeating, do you need help? Do you need help? His tone is getting more urgent now. He's speaking faster. I quickly move around the car and find the driver's door handle. Just as I'm about to pull it open, a light appears behind me. I instinctively turn around and look to see headlights coming my way down the interstate. Chance starts barking loud. I whip back around, expecting to see the man closing in on me. He's gone. Chance is still barking. Hello? I yell out. Nothing. No breathing. No movement. No, do you need help? In response, I stand there for a couple seconds, unsure. The car coming from behind passes me. They don't stop. I can't blame them. Would you stop for a random car on the side of a desolate road? I didn't even think about waving them down. I'm still trying to process what happened. Did I imagine it? I walk ahead, approaching the area where the man was standing. Footprints in the snow. They begin where the man was standing, stretching into the distance down the road. I still have my tire iron, and I turn on the flashlight on my phone and follow the footsteps. 10 feet outside of the range of my headlights, they turn. They go right off the road to the south and disappear. Now I'm not stupid enough to go following footsteps through the Utah wilderness in the middle of the night. But damn it, was I curious. More headlights coming up from behind brought me back to my senses. I went back to the car, changed the tire, and was back on my way, albeit at a much slower pace. The rest of the trip was as uneventful as the beginning, and I didn't feel the need to mention the encounter to anyone. Nothing bad had happened. Sure, it was freaky, but I still wasn't altogether convinced that I hadn't imagined the whole thing. It was late, and I had been driving for almost 9 hours straight. But I'll tell you one thing for sure. I definitely don't want to drive that way at night again to find out.